Welcome back to the Leadership Lab, the show where we explore leadership, clarity, purpose, and the mental frameworks that help people thrive personally and professionally. Today's guest helps individuals and leaders break through confusion and indecision so they can pursue meaningful success with confidence. Jen Mary Barnes is the founder and principal of Pocket Ninja or of Pocket Ninja where they guides people to align their values and goals. Well, John, welcome. And just to start, tell us a bit more about your journey and what you're building with Pocket Ninja Strategies.
Well, of course, thank you for having me here. I do have my own training and coaching business, and I do emphasize the word training because they're not the same. And training is really like where you actually learn in practice, and then coaching is where you get advice about that skill, right? And I think that's
Yeah.
really important because that's what I'm really passionate about is making sure people have the actual tools they need from the training and coaching. Anyways,
Yeah.
important distinction to me. So with Pocket Ninja Strategies, I work with businesses, I work with leaders,
Yeah.
and I even do coaching on people's personal lives. And I want to bring that up because I've often thought, and a lot of coaches often narrow, and I've always thought, should I just focus on business or should I just focus on personal coaching or just career coaching or leadership? And I can't do it because A, I love all of those things and I don't
Yeah.
want to let it go, but also because they're also intersectional. And so it's not, as people, we're not segregated. And often, sometimes we don't know where the challenge is. So I have like CEOs, founders of businesses, executives show up thinking they want business coaching. After we
Mhm.
discuss more, I've had them many times end up in personal coaching because actually the
Oh
business
my
they've
God.
got it
Yeah.
handled. It's that they're not enjoying it or they're just second guessing themselves so much or just business is taking over their life and they want to make sure they have their other life. So my coaching business hits all of those things. And how I ended up here, I would say, is a very like disempowering journey to very empowering. I grew up with what I would say was excruciating like self-doubt. I really thought that I just had this thought in my mind always that like that's not for you.
Yeah.
And it sort of felt like to me everyone else was born with like a key to a certain room, and it was just so unfortunate that I wasn't born to that. Like I'm not allowed. I can't get there. And I remember like thinking it's kind of disappointing that I never got that key because I think that would be really fun in that room and cool and I like it.
Yeah.
But it felt like the critical self-talk was so negative. But then there was this huge conflict because internally, actually, I had all this drive.
Mhm.
And what I would say in my business, we call my type of client a high capacity client. We call them ninjas.
Oh,
And
that's where
okay,
Ninja come from.
yeah. And that name was given to me. I didn't make up that because people were like, "Oh, you're such a ninja," because like my advice would be so like, "Here's the
Oh.
real problem," and they're like, "Okay, ninja," so that was given to me. I was like, "Okay, I guess this is the name of my business." But over time, I've defined ninjas as they're daring dreamers. Okay, so they're the people who they want something bigger, better, different. They're purposeful learners. So they want to learn. They're like out to find the secrets, the hacks, that how do you really do it all? How do you really, they are learning. They're courageous transformers. So they actually change and grow when they get the new information.
Yeah.
And lastly, they're bold action takers. So they're people who are like, okay, I get it. I'm going to go sign up for the MBA. I'm going to go take that course. I'm going to have the conversation with my boss. I'm going to join the thing. But the thing is, you can be a ninja and not know it. And no one knows that more than me because I was that person where I actually had all those things inside me, but they were like squished from all my like negative notions. So it was like such an internal conflict. So I say like sports car engine, but all brakes, it was only brakes. And so I just lived a life of such internal conflict of like, I have dreams and I have desires and I never thought I was smart. I didn't even think I was smart until I was in my MBA and then figured out like this isn't that hard. I know things. So I had yeah, all this like breaks holding me back. And then through a lot of like self-development work and learning, I started to break through some of those like limiting beliefs about myself and what was possible. And so I really, one of the things I think my clients really understand is I see all the potential in them. Like I really get when they're talking about what they want, when it feels confusing to them or the world is like, no, or, but I also so I get the possibility, but I also get the suffering because
Yeah,
I'm well aware. I'm not that type A person that just from the beginning was, the valedictorian and all A's in high school. And now they're so successful. They have their multi-million dollar whatever business. And so now they're going to coach you, nothing wrong with that. But that was not my journey. My journey was a lot of like unfulfilled potential. And then I don't know that the fulfilling it is so hard, but it was the seeing that I could fulfill it, which was the
I see.
hardest thing.
Like,
Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing this. So, like, when did you think that ninja strategies actually began? Like, what was the starting point for you? And what problem are you most passionate about solving?
Yeah. Okay. So how it came to be for me is, I was doing a lot of self-development work myself, taking courses, reading books, all these things. But then I started developing certain things. Like I did this values exercise and started to learn my values.
Yeah.
And then I did strengths. The company I worked at, we did strengths. So I don't know if you know Strengths Finder, developed Strengths Finder,
Mhm.
very international strengths assessment. And then I started to do my goals in the different areas of my life, which now I actually coach people from, which I call the personal playbook, your value, strengths, and goals in
Okay.
that order. And so once I got that and I had my values, and it's very important, they're in a hierarchical system. So my values in an order and
Hmm.
my strengths in an order and my goals in an order. And then in that order, values, strengths, and goals, always in that order because the order matters. And I had a really good job. I had a great boss. I had a varied career. I was in my MBA, but I started having friction at work. Like it wasn't fulfilling any for me anymore. I started to like, I felt like I was hitting the top and it didn't make sense. In the past, I had sometimes had not great bosses or not great organizations. So I could sort of say, like, oh, I'm leaving, and it's because like that boss wasn't great, or I work for a company that went bankrupt. I was like,
Yeah.
thank weren't always great in lots of the jobs I worked. So, but this time I was like, no, no, like this is pretty good. So what is going on here? Right? Like,
Yeah.
and maybe it's me. And so I'm sort of like, okay, I can go get another job and be in the
Okay.
same place for 2 years, right? Like from that job. And what the light bulb went on when I saw my values, strengths, and goals, because what I realized is, oh, when I looked at that, starting my own business, was like not an option.
Hmm.
Because like my number one value is freedom. My number two value was leadership. Number three, adventure. So it's like, yeah, I was never ever gonna be satisfied if I didn't try to have that full freedom of like really doing things my own way, being the ultimate decider. And then it was same thing with my strengths. I was like, that's why, like
So
that's why.
you had to try to figure it out, like to see if,
Yeah, yeah. So it was the clarity of my
yeah,
value, strengths, and goals that said, oh my gosh, this is why this isn't working for you. And you're never going to be happy unless you try this.
yeah.
You're never going to be happy. And so that's what gave me the courage. And I have to say, like I always say, courage is compelling, or sorry, clarity is compelling. Like when you get
Okay.
really clear, it drives you. Clarity will allow you to do things you never thought,
Okay.
right? And so I was dead scared. I was still in my MBA. I was leaving my really good job kind of for nothing, just like I'm gonna do this business. And I did it anyways. And there was a lot of self-doubt. There was a lot of crying. I can't do this. What am I doing? But the clarity of that internalized and that visual of my value, strengths, and goals, and aligning to that, knowing, oh, that feels so good and that feels so right after my whole lifetime of like not seeing that and not acknowledging it and not making decisions in alignment with that. I couldn't help myself. Like I was sort of not even in control. The clarity
Yeah.
just was like pulling
I
me.
believe you found your passion too.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it was like so much more in alignment that
Hmm.
I had no control. I couldn't force myself to do anything else. So I tried it and one of the big breakthroughs was facing worst case scenario. I just said, okay, well, if you try this and it fails, I said, well, okay, I'll probably be in debt. I'll probably be really embarrassed. I'll be sad that I didn't have what it takes, my vision, like, oh, I wasn't good enough. I said, but then you know what? I'll get over the embarrassment. I will get another job. I'll pay off my debt. I'll still have a successful career and I'll know, like and it will be put to bed. So that's what allowed me to do. It was like the clarity and then the courage to just risk it and say, you know what, I'm willing to just find out.
It's
I'm
great.
willing to
Like, did you
find
have
out.
a backup plan just for that before
Oh,
switching to your,
no,
or you just went straight? Just,
I
I
didn't
want to
have a
try this.
plan. And I mean, a lot of people said, oh, this is such a good idea. Like when the MBA is done and when you la 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 and but I couldn't. Once I saw it, I couldn't wait.
Yeah.
Everything else was just so incongruent. And so, like, I think back and I'm like, oh, I don't think I could summon that level of courage now. But it's the power of the clarity because I was so
Right.
clear and I had never felt that alignment before. I was always trying to be someone I wasn't, like do things in a way that didn't work for me. I was always holding myself back, like not believing and not taking risks, not,
Mhm.
calculated risks, right? So,
Okay.
yeah,
That's great. Thank you so much for that. So,
yeah. So, I have some strong beliefs about how I do run my business and do my client work, and I, think people should, and you should do things in a way that work for you and are in alignment for you. So I have strong beliefs about things, and through this, I've ended up developing my own signature methodology, which I call the MTS, which is
okay.
the mindset, tool set, skill set. Right. And that's how we get that learning, that training, when I say training, that makes a difference,
Okay.
like a real difference. So, often people go to like, a workshop and they come back and they're really excited because maybe they got a mindset in there. They're like, oh, yeah, so cool. But then maybe in that session, they didn't get the tools or they
Right.
didn't get the skills, they didn't get a chance to practice. Or, it goes the other way around. Like you went somewhere and you got the tool, but they didn't change your mind. Like I was getting tools when I was doubting myself, but I wasn't getting the mindset that I could use them. I
Right.
was worthy of them. So my whole methodology is that mindset, tool set, skill set, so that people actually get results and they get change that works that lasts. Because that's what matters to me is you want to like learn something, have a shift in how you think about things, get the tools to meet
Hmm.
that shift, and then have the chance to practice. So you don't try one time, it doesn't work, and then you're like, forget that, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
because of that,
I,
right?
I I like this
Because
MTS thing.
yeah, right. It just came through my work organically. I didn't know that that was my subconscious insight. And I remember again when I was in my very didn't think highly of myself stage, I was at a workshop, a
Okay.
whole day of workshop where we were learning about this business framework. I was looking around and I was like, and they were just speeding through the book about like all the details. And I was like, this is cool. I was eating it all up. But I remember looking around this room and going, this guy's a genius because no one in this room is going to be able to implement anything he is saying. This workshop is actually a whole day sales thing because we're not learning anything about how to do it. We're
Okay.
learning what? We're not learning any how. And even the few people that go back and try to do this, try to
Such
implement
like
something.
school, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, yes. So they're gonna go back and they're gonna try it. Something's not gonna work and they're gonna fall flat on their face. So then they're gonna go, oh, forget about it. So great idea, but the way it's being taught is like not it's just informational, right? And so I had this subconscious th thought that like people aren't going to implement this because they're not going to know how. And so that's what I always was thinking about, like, how does it actually work? How do they
Yeah.
actually, how, and I think maybe that's because that was always my struggle, like, nice idea, but like, how, or like, great tool, but I can't use that tool, like, not me. It's not, I'm not worthy of it, right? So that's my methodology. And because of that, my coaching tends to be different in that it's customized. Lots of times it's the same thing, but it's customized. So I always do what I call a clarity conversation with any potential client. We walk through 4 questions that helps us really dive into the challenges and opportunities. And then I can give them straight up, recommendations sometimes, that often, but the odd time I've said, you're on the wrong problem. You don't need to be here. It's actually just this, and you already had that. And I've had the people go, oh, awesome, great, you're right. Like, I'm inventing a problem here, or whatever. Like, or I say, like, it's not me, it's more this, right?
Yeah.
Not so often. Usually I have something. Um, or like I've said, I've had clients who think they're coming for business advice. And I sort of say, ooh, sounds like you could use some work on your business playbook, but also you might be really interested in the profession or the personal playbook. And they end up doing that, but they thought they were coming for business coaching. So I always customize, and also I design things like if I'm doing training, for example, I do, like, let's say, giving feedback workshop. Lots of people will come in, they'll teach the workshop.
That's so productive though.
Yeah, great, right? We have a workshop. But like I design mine where first of all, we definitely attack the mindset
Hmm.
about feedback and like how it's a gift and how it's everyone's responsibility. So we do all this mindset stuff that shifts. We give the tools, right? In class, like different statements to use, stuff. Then we practice in scenarios, right?
Yeah.
But then I've had like all often book like 2 follow-up sessions where they'll have like 1 week where they go do like a feedback challenge, and they have to go and give as much positive feedback as they can.
Yeah.
And then we come back and we have a half an hour session and we share and talk about that. And then we'll have another feedback challenge. And it's like, okay, now go give at least 3 times challenging feedback, right? Go do that
Okay.
and then come back. So that again, it's not just like, okay, that was nice, but can we sustain it?
Right.
It's like we
Right.
plant the seed, we don't want to go, good luck. So that's
This is what
um
must do, to be honest, and it's the sad part.
that's fine, and that works for a lot of coaches and it works for a lot of clients,
Yeah.
but it's not my prerogative. I really want to be able for people to have the real lasting change, and that means we have to get all those things. And I also really teach them this is the mindset as
Mhm.
like so as a tool, and then these are the tools, and then this is how we practice. And one of
Right.
my favorite things in all my coaching and all my teaching is when clients go, I could hear what you were saying in my head, or I coached myself, or I was trying to make this decision and my values came into my head and I knew how to use it, or that old thought came in my head about not you, but then I raised my hand and I'm like, that's what we wanted. We wanted you to be able to employ it in the moment without me. Lasting, not just we have a high from the learning,
Yeah.
but then it's gone.
That's really smooth, and I like how actually you do this and make this kind of engagement. So shifting to industry and coaching trends now, like what shifts are you seeing and like how people think about clarity, purpose, professional fulfillment today?
I think there's like lots of interesting things going on, but I think I'm going to touch on this. We'll see, if it's controversial or what, but I think it's an important point is, the hot topic right now, of course, is AI.
Oh.
Right. And, is AI going to take our jobs and, certain things. And of course, there's concerns and there's things about that. But I think, there's a great book called 21 Things to Know About the 21st Century, I think is what it's called. Could be wrong. And he's talking
Okay.
about, I think it's the book that comes after Sapiens. And he's talking about like all the things that could happen. And one of the things he says is just because we can doesn't mean we will when it comes to humanity. So, AI is like breaking through the scene as all innovation does, but it often gets reined in. Government, after the fact, they can't control the innovation, but after they kind of try to control. So
Mhm.
you look at Airbnb, it was like explosion. Now government's regulated, you have to have a license, you have to da 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 da, right? So it doesn't per se have to ruin everything and take over. It's exploding and causing problems, but it will hopefully will be reined in a little bit and be productive.
Yeah.
But the second part of it is going to be around and it is going to be helpful, but it increases the need for the human skills. And we are lacking those more and more. So let me give the example. If we take technology, Simon Sinek talks about this all the time. Okay, we take technology, we take dating apps, and we take young people. There's so many young people who've like never asked someone out on a date ever in their life in person. It's just
Hmm.
swipe, swipe, we double match, right? So
Right.
technology is taking away some of the human skills. It's making it easier, less friction. But then we don't have those skills. And the more technology increases, the more we need those skills. So how do I relate that to business? Well, okay, I can use ChatGPT, let's say in a business, we can, or any AI, right? In a business, we can maybe put in a lot of information into the
Hmm.
AI to help us figure out strategy, right? Let's
Right.
say. Well, okay, but it comes out with this strategy. It says do this, but maybe that means a change. Maybe that means stop doing certain things. Maybe that it's going to require us to do something hard. And do we have the skills to do that? Do I have the courage to stand up and say
It's
we're
just a tool. Like they don't
yes,
understand that it's a tool that you
yeah,
need to have the right skill to use this tool to get the right outcome
yeah,
out there.
yes. The tool
Yeah.
needed. The irony is the tools that are needed from the humans, and that comes first. Whatever good in, good out, not so good
Yeah.
and not so good out, right? So what it requires is it actually requires higher level human skills.
Right.
Like
If you don't
it
have the right
requires,
skill or you don't
yeah,
know what you're doing with this AI, it's not gonna have the whole work for you. Like, you need to
yeah,
know how you're gonna use it, whether you're searching for something personal or even in a professional level, um, like literally anything. Like it can help you with a lot of things, but you need to have the right skill. It can run an email campaign. Nowadays, it's going crazy. Like even having
yeah,
cars without drivers, like
yeah.
that. It's
But if I can use it to run an email campaign, but then when I get backlash, which you inevitably will on social media, do I have the courage to go out and be human and apologize and or okay, we have this really good strategy. I see it everywhere in the market right now. I say like you don't have if it doesn't hurt, it's not a strategy. Okay.
right.
Strategy hurts. It means, oh, we could go there and do that, make so much money, but no, we're not.
Hmm.
Or that's such a good idea, but we're not taking it on right now because our strategy is this, right? So, but that pain, humans avoid pain. It's wired into us to avoid pain. And that's why we love technology because it lessens pain. But when we
Right.
lessen our pain, my favorite author, Glennon Doyle, when we miss our pain, we miss our becoming.
Yeah.
So it's okay. It's okay to use this secondarily, but if you're not building the strength, even if I go to ChatGPT or I keep saying ChatGPT, but anything AI to like help me have a hard conversation. Okay, great, give me a framework, great, like da da da, great. But then do I have the emotional capacity to go do that? And I think that's the problem
Hmm.
that's going down because we're not getting as much training in that, as much
Right.
experience. And so I think that is the biggest trend is that, for example, businesses want more and more innovation. They want more and more creative thinking from their teams, right? Well, that comes with a lot of vulnerability. That comes with decision making. That comes with the ability to have very difficult discussions and not go to complacency. And do we have those skills? And
Right.
I think we don't. I think they're diminishing and not in a negative, like, oh, the world's getting worse. No, but I just think everything is adjusting. So we haven't adjusted to where we build those skills in now.
Right. If they don't have
You
the
know,
right skill, like let's say they feel like we need more clients, we want to reach more clients, but did you follow up with the clients you already have? Like you're missing a lot out there. Like there's a lot on the table that you're already missing, and you're using the AI tool or whatever just to reach new things, and you don't have the right skill just to handle the whole thing. Like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
you have the clients now. What are you gonna do with them? Like you don't have the right
Well,
skill
and
just to keep them.
I can do like a marketing email campaign and like all these things and like pump out a lot of things with AI. I wish I could do pump out more. Still learning, but the thing is like there's got to be something different in my business. There's got to be something meaningful. And if I don't take the emotional labor to
Hmm.
figure out like how I'm different. And it's funny, I remember very early starting my business and I
Okay.
was explaining it to someone that I didn't know, right? Like, oh, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I'm just starting this business. And I'm explaining.
Hmm.
And it was like, what's your advantage? And I said, oh, well, my thing is that I like actually train people, so don't need me anymore. And he was like, that sounds like a really bad business model. And I was like, you don't know anything. I was like, you don't know anything about business. I said,
Okay.
if I train my clients and they have good results, then they'll tell other people. Like, why would I want to be in a business where I'm like, well, I'm gonna only halfway get you there because I want you to still get your money. Like, how about I just actually charge you for what it's worth and then get you all the way there, right? But see, but that is a human skill to like critically analyze, to have my values and be willing to stand behind them and to
Hmm.
do something different, right? And
Right.
I mostly sell like in packages.
Yeah.
And people go, "Well, how many sessions?" And I go, I don't know because someone may take one session on values and you might take three. And someone else might take three sessions on values, but but only two on strengths and someone else. And
Hmm.
so I just sell, hey, we're going to do this work and this is the price, you know? And if we have a few more sessions, if you like, because it depends what you need. And
Right.
so I can't tell me that. And so if I didn't have those point of views and I was just trying to use AI, I'm just like everyone else. And I think we all were competitive in our different approaches. And like my approach isn't the right one. My approach is the right one for me and for my clients, right? But
Right.
that was a lot of my own emotional labor. And like, it is an interesting emotional labor because it's a bigger thing to sell and a little bit more challenging because it's not as clear cut. Even though there's a benefit, clients are like, great, so I can have more time if I need, or I can go faster if I need, or whatever. But it's less concrete to sell and it's a bigger price because it's like a package instead of like, these sort of piecemeal sessions where I hope I can sell them this and this and
Yeah.
this. And then also like sometimes I really underestimate the price and I'm like, this was a lot more than what I thought. But then that's my responsibility, right? And so like
Right.
that's fine. I agreed to the work at that price, so we're doing it. But see, that's a lot of emotional labor on my part to own that and to just show up and do the work, which is what I like. That's why I like pricing that way too, because I want to take money out and I just want to do the work no matter what, right?
Right.
Like, let's just do great work, right? Instead of like, oh, well, this is taking longer. Great. I'm going to sell them another thing.
That's a lot and
So, but
expand.
right? But it takes these human skills of like the courage, the clarity, the willing to be different, some of the sacrifices. And so yeah, I just think we don't want to be down on technology. We want to use it, but we want to use it secondarily. And we
Mhm.
want to make sure we are building the skills and not just intellectual skills, but the
Right.
emotional skills, the
Right.
critical thinking skills, the courage skills, the leadership skills, the clarity skills to then we will be able to leverage technology. Otherwise, technology will actually be a hindrance. And I'll add a little insight from one of the best classes I took in my MBA, which was my IT class. I have to say shout out to Dr. Tinkling, one of the best instructors I ever had. And
Okay.
what he taught us was how to manage something that you don't know anything about, because that's what IT is like, right? You're managing something you don't know anything about. And one of the things he taught us is that IT is not a competitive advantage. Yeah, like technology is not a competitive advantage. It starts out as a competitive advantage. If you get on it first, you get leverage. But
All right.
eventually it's ubiquitous. Everyone has it. So the people that were early to Instagram, businesses that were early to Instagram or TikTok, they're leveraging it. But eventually everyone's on Instagram, everyone's on Facebook, everyone. So eventually Facebook isn't a competitive advantage as a business. You just have to be there no matter what,
Right. Like just to
right?
show up.
Yeah, it comes a requirement. So in the beginning, it was this like competitive advantage.
Right.
Now it's just a requirement that's not so. It has an arc where there's a high point where it has a competitive advantage. And
Mhm.
that's awesome if you get on it early and you get that benefit. But eventually being the leader of a business on Facebook, eventually it's like no big like it's not a big advantage. And
Right.
again, where the advantage comes in is being the humanness to then go, okay, well, where's the next space? Let me
Mhm.
go be here. Let me do uncomfortable things in what I'm doing on marketing compared to other people, right? So the humanness always has to be higher. So
Right.
even when you have this like we're getting on AI before other companies, great. You'll have an advantage for a while, but you can't stay there.
Yeah, like, will you be able to handle all this? Like, do you have the right skill
Yeah,
set? Do you,
yeah,
I totally agree with you, to be honest. I believe the book that you mentioned, it's the 21 Lessons for the 21st Century. This is
great.
the,
Yeah,
yeah, this is what you
yeah,
mentioned. I
yeah,
didn't
really
read
good.
it, to be honest, but
Yeah,
yeah, it's more or
yeah.
less. So,
It's pretty intense, very like textbooky. It's very, detail and heavy, but it's very interesting.
okay, all right, interesting. I'll go through that and I'll let you know. Like, let's say, how does clarity interplay with leadership effectiveness in teams and organizations nowadays?
Clarity is everything. Okay. It's the only tool you ever need
Yeah.
because clarity is compelling. And so I define leadership as when I am willing to do something
Hmm.
that serves something other than myself, and often there's a risk involved.
Okay.
Right? It doesn't come with a title, right? But it's like I'm sitting in a meeting and I don't understand what the boss is saying, or I don't understand what the head engineer is saying. And I go, excuse me, like, I don't understand that. Can you explain? That's a leadership moment because I might not be the only one. And it's a little bit, intimidating. Or, when I question, everyone's agreeing on a certain decision. I go, actually, I disagree. I think we should go in this direction. I think our strategy should be this, and this is why, right? I'm
Hmm.
serving something bigger than just myself. Like
Yeah.
if I'm just speaking up to get more marketing budget because I want more marketing budget, to protect me, okay. But when I'm speaking up to say like, actually, like I've said it in meetings, like I don't think the budget for marketing should be increased this much
Hmm.
because we're overdoing it, and so it's a leadership moment, right? And so there's no title involved, and it's a moment to moment phenomenon, right?
Right.
So you're not a leader and you stay there. It's like in this moment, I
Hmm.
do the bigger thing with my brother. I go and I have the hard conversation. Then at work, I need to have a conversation with my boss. I go, not a leadership moment, right? So it's a moment to moment phenomenon. So
Right.
it's always a choice in the moment, and it requires a bit of courage. We have to sort of like put our neck out there. And so clarity is the number one thing that allows me to do that. Because let me tell you, every leadership moment has not been easy, right? Or I think it's not a leadership moment. It's more this conversation with a client the other day. If it's kind of easy, like it's your job and you're doing it like of me saying, yeah, the budget should be more, blah, blah, blah. That's a management moment. I'm
Right.
managing. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do in that job. A
Hmm.
leadership moment is when I step up to do the bigger thing that serves something bigger that has usually a risk. And so, where was I going with this? Yeah. So those moments, those leadership moments, right? They require that putting myself at risk, that being on the edge, right? Again, the human things. I have some critical insight. It requires some emotion, like I need courage. And so again, clarity is compelling. So when I get clear, I'm able to do those things. Like when I got so clear what my value, strengths, and goals were, I was like, I have to try my business. I have to because it's so obvious, even though I'm scared,
Yeah.
right? So clarity works every time. And
It's
if I
totally
think,
fine to be scared though. Like,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
actually one of the gears to just show up and do it the right way.
yeah. But what's gonna help you in that moment when you're scared? What's gonna allow you to do that? What's gonna allow you to push over that limit,
Yeah.
right? That emotional limit, that barrier. Well, it's clarity because you get clear. And I'll give two examples. I have a friend and former colleague who, well, in my opinion, is a total genius.
Okay.
In the past would have never considered themselves a leader, software engineer and architect, and they've built several companies. But I've seen them in a meeting just totally speak up and point blank say, like, not a harsh thing, but like a really like pointed thing. They would not think of themselves per se as confident at that time or a leader. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I was blown away in the meeting where you're just like, well, da da da. but for them, they're like, yeah, but it was so clear. Like, I can see the problem in the decision making that they
Right.
don't see. So I'm compelled to say, right? So clarity is compelling. Like that's the
Okay.
thing. And confidence is not, right? Because confidence leaves you the moment things get hard.
All right.
So the moment, right? I have confidence until it's out of my comfort zone. Then I'm like, and then what's the difference though is I'll be able to do the thing that looks confident and do the leadership thing if I have clarity. So I'll give, another example. I was a college instructor and, there's lots of things I did in my class that is different than what other teachers would do. And I don't know if criticize, but just being the odd one out, right? And sort of standing up for certain things, saying they're wrong or I don't agree or whatever. And the only way I could do that because I was so clear of what I was trying to give the students, right? I'm not preparing them for a test. And yeah, we're going to write a test. Sure, who cares? I'm preparing them for the bigger thing. That's what matters, right? My goal is that someday they're in a job or something and they're like, oh my God, thank God that teacher did this thing because now I have this skill or I have this mindset or this ability, right? And so, but like, it's hard to stand on your own. And it's hard when all these students don't like what you're doing because in some ways I'm making their life harder. They're like,
Yeah.
the other teachers let
A
us
lot
do
of
this.
them, a lot of them will be just thinking about the short-term goal, like, which is the
Yeah,
test, and they're not looking further than that. But for you, you
yeah,
have the overview look. You're trying
yeah.
actually to help. They do
Yeah.
realize
So
that.
when the criticism shows up, when the pressure is on from all the students, please just let us. All the other teachers, well, I would never do that. I'm like, yeah, well, good for you. But the reason I could stand, it's not because I was so confident.
Yeah.
No, I question myself all the time. And also, why am I doing this to myself? It's so much harder. But I was like, but I would ask myself, why am I doing this? And then what would be the answer? Well, my clarity, I'd be like, because I care about the bigger picture. And then I would
Right.
be able to do it,
Right.
you
Right.
know? So clarity is everything. And I'll give a little nugget here. Here is the thing, okay? What does clarity mean? We're talking about it, like, we're like, yeah, we know, but we're talking about an abstract concept right now. So here's the definition of clarity, and this is why it works so well. Clarity is the quality of being easy to understand. That's what clarity is. It has a quality of being easy to understand. So let me explain. So if you're in the airport, right? You've been in lots of airports, the signage, right? Okay. Sometimes good, sometimes not so good. Okay. So when we look at the signage in the airport, we can very easily determine is the quality of the signage easy to understand or not, right? And you've been in some airports, clarity, easy to understand, not easy to understand. We can look at a brochure, easy to understand, not. We can look at the teacher's PowerPoint, easy to understand, not, right?
Right.
Okay, but now let me look at a life decision about it's my dream job, but it requires an hour of commuting each way in heavy traffic, and I have little kids, but it's my dream job and it gives me the okay. Now does this decision have a quality of being easy to understand?
All right.
No,
Now I get it.
right?
Yeah.
It doesn't, but we can bring that through a system, value, strengths, goals. If I look at my value, strengths, and goals, it will tell me. And this is an example I use all the time because it showed up many times for my client where exact thing happened to a client and it was the exact position she was looking for, but we had just done her personal playbook. And what I love so much is she didn't show up with that problem in her session, which she could have. That would have been no problem. That's the point of sessions. But she showed up and said to me, oh my gosh, this is what happened in the last week. Most perfect job showed up. I totally wanted it. It required this. My first value is family. My second value is wellness. I could see it was going to give me less of those. So I said no. Easy to understand. Okay. I'm running a business and I have to promote two people. One person's been here forever. They're really good. They deserve it. They've worked hard, but maybe they're not quite as on the edge as someone younger, new, or whatever. I have a new person who's really new, very ambitious, lots of promise, maybe a little bit more on the edge of this job. If we say like think marketing, like okay, they're more on the trend, but the other
Yeah,
person can learn it. Like who do I give the promotion to?
right.
Is it easy to understand? Reverse, I have to lay someone off. Do I lay off? So clarity is everything because when we get things clear, we can figure
It's the
everything out.
core thing for all of them.
It's the number one thing, and that's my whole work. All it is clarity,
Yeah.
because I work with high caliber people, and the problem is that they're conflicted on the inside, right? They're
Hmm.
like, but I want to be ambitious and I want to build all this stuff, but I want to spend time with my family, but I want to be like this way, but the industry says no, you can't be that way. And so then we work on literally almost every client I work with, except for when we're doing like workshops, we do values because it's the core thing. Because as soon as we get your values in a hierarchy, it becomes easy to understand. Because when your number one value, like my number 5 value is success. So like I want to be successful. I want to do worthy things. That's my definition, is to do worthy things and enjoy what comes with success. That's my definition. But my number one value is freedom. Okay.
Okay. And
Those
how do
are
you
very
reach that?
those are very opposing things,
Okay.
right? Right? Like freedom and success are often because something gives me more free. Like I
But
have a lot
somehow
of freedom
they're
right now.
connected. Like,
Well,
if
they can be, but also a lot of freedom right now, maybe no money, right? Like, so, and I would have a lot more money if my number one value wasn't freedom, because that's why the corporate track never worked for me,
Hmm.
because it's too restricted for me, right? In what I've experienced, not for other people. They've found their freedom there, right? So when opportunities come my way, it will look really like good, and like everyone would say, yeah, you take that. That's so good. But I've now turned down things that look like the right thing because I immediately go, does this give me more freedom? Does this give me more leadership? Does this give me more adventure,
right,
more
the right questions.
Yes, and so that's clarity. And clarity, it's great because it's always findable.
Right.
Confidence, I can't find it. Even now, someone who coaches people on all these things, who has more confidence than I've ever had, I lose it a lot. And it's nowhere to be
For sure,
found.
we're
I'm
humans.
on the closet. Clarity, I can always find, because in my darkest hour, when I've been criticized or I did something and it didn't work, or I'm not happy with myself, or a decision comes along when I'm totally torn, I can go, well, how do I make this easy to understand? And it's like, I have to
Right.
get the system. What's the system I'm running this decision through or
Hmm.
looking this lens through? And then boom, I can figure it out. And then I don't even have to have the confidence. I can be still scared, but I will take action. And that's the power of clarity.
Right. Right. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
sharing this about clarity. Like, let me ask you, what is the
Very,
most struggle you hear from people comes to you?
I don't want to be redundant, but it's clarity, but it's the system for clarity.
Okay.
And so, I was a college instructor. I read lots of business books. So to be technical, right? So system is when you have content plus hierarchy. So again, if I give you 5 values, but we make them all equal, doesn't help you, right?
Right.
Because you got to make that job decision. You're like, but success, but family, but money, but like it's like, but if we put them in a hierarchy, then it's
It's
like,
just
okay,
prioritization.
yeah, yeah. And again, that's the emotional labor to sit down and go, okay, but when it comes to family or health, which one? Or
Hmm.
family and career, which one? Which one do I choose over the other one? Not black or white choose, but if I have to pick one
Just
over the
hierarchy,
other,
like to set up
1%,
everything.
1%, well, this one, right? So the biggest thing for my clients is they're missing the system,
Okay.
right? So it's all inside them.
They're
There
having
is a
random moves, like more
Yeah,
as
well, or there's a conflict. Like they're like, I'm running this business, but I have an intuition to make this decision, but then I feel like, well, that you're not supposed to do that, or it's well, or what do other people do, or what? And it's like they don't have that clarity sorted out. So they have all the pieces, but they're not articulated. So
yeah.
they're not like, well, these are the 5
They're not
values.
in the right place yet.
Well, yeah, so it's vague, right? It's not clear. It's like muddy, and then
Oh,
it's not in a hierarchy. So everything's vague and everything's competing.
okay. That's great.
Right?
So what results do you like do your clients often experience that surprise them?
I think what surprises them is the surprise, is that it's not what they expected. So I had a client I remember earlier on, and again, very conflicted on the inside. Such a ninja, didn't know it. And we were spending all this time on values. There was a
Yeah.
lot of like fogginess and resistance to the values. I don't like these values. These values are boring. Why are these my values? Should these be my values? I'm like, your values are your values, right? So
Right.
there was a lot, so we were spending a lot of time on that because it needed it, because there was a lot of mindset barriers for this client around values. And they were getting frustrated. They're like, when are we getting to goals? I just want to get to goals. Like, I'm here to get goals, And I said, well, if we're gonna, they didn't quite say it like that, but see, there's a reason why people were like ninja, because like a
Right.
little bit,
Decisive.
yeah, but they were, or maybe intense might be the word, but they were, and I said, listen, if we want to create goals from where you are right now, we don't need to be in coaching, because you're just going to create what you already know. And
Right.
that doesn't feel right for you, or you wouldn't be here, right?
Right.
So we continued to work. And of course, by the time we got to goals, do you think the goals were at all what she thought they were going to be? No, they were totally different, right? Or I've had clients who are like, they absolutely need to leave their job. They end up not leaving because something changes. I have clients who, yeah, they come in so adamant they need business support, and they're like, oh, it's actually personal. And it's like, oh, and it's actually not that anything needs to change, in that, like, actually my circumstances are good. What's missing is I'm not enjoying them, and I don't feel powerful.
Mm.
So it's a mindset. So people are always missing a mindset, a tool set, or a skill set. They're missing one
Right.
of those pieces, and that's the outcome. They get the missing piece. They had all this wisdom in them, or intelligence that is their tool set, but they didn't have the mindset that they could use it.
Yeah.
Or
That's
or they had the mindset. I have a client that is just like just unbelievable, type A, so smart, so like he's just so amazing. He has all the mindset. His intuition of what to do as a leader is like literally textbook. Dude, that is literally a theory in a textbook of what you kind of thought you should do there. Like, I've taught that theory. I've taught scenarios like this, right? But he doesn't have the language for it, which he needs to progress, because he needs to be able to articulate. He sometimes doesn't have the like validation. He's not
Mhm.
sure. And sometimes he just doesn't have the technical tool. So I'll be like, okay, here's the framework for giving feedback. Da, da, da. And he's like, okay, great. But he didn't have a problem with thinking he was the person that should give feedback. He had a technical issue of like, what's the framework?
Right.
Right. And so here, 90% of the time, it's just like a tool. I'm like, here's how you have that conversation. Here's how you deal with that problem. Here's how you work with your business partner on that. Like, here's the tool, right? So that's what clients get, is they get the missing piece or pieces. And so then they have a full functioning system, because things work when you have the complete system of mindset, tool set, skill set.
Right. That's totally right. So, talking about your goals, since you mentioned like, let's shift to your goals. What do you think, like you would like to reach, or where do you want to take your coaching and content in the next 6 to 12 months?
I was the next 6 to 12 months. I want to double what I'm doing. I want to do a lot more business training, because again, I want to get into these businesses and start giving them the tools. I was having a conversation the other day with someone else who works in my business, and we were saying, oh yeah, businesses want all these things from people, but they never give them the chance, the training, and they never give
Yeah.
them the chance to practice.
Right.
So I want to get in there and yeah, be working with more businesses. I mean, I already do, but my business goes in.
You want to double that.
Yeah, and my business goes in like ebbs and flows of like, sometimes I have like so many personal coaching clients. Sometimes it's like so much career development. Like, I always have a little bit of everything, but sometimes it's, yeah. And I don't sort of choose it. It chooses me about what shows up.
Yeah.
But I would love to be doing more of that training, because it's so empowering, and especially with AI coming in, and every company wanting more out of their employees and wanting more for their employees. Like, I want my employees to be happier. I want them to be more engaged. I want them to be more successful. It's like, great, well, I can help give you the mindset, tool set, skill set for that.
That gonna work for all this.
Yeah.
Uh, like, are there new areas you're focusing on, like teams, leadership, development, or digital programs?
It's all in the development of people.
Okay,
So again, it depends what it is. You know, is your company missing values that you can operate by? Is
right,
there a lack of psychological safety?
right.
Do we not have creative skills? Do we not have communication skills? Does your team not know their strengths, right? Like teams, we come inherently in life insecure. That's how we're biologically wired. We're more wired for threats and fear than we are for like rewards and like confidence, right? It's a
Hmm.
biological fact. And so I've done a lot of workshop with teams on strengths. And it's like so cool when they come in and they see how they're the same, but they see how they're different and they see how that's good. Like it's okay that I'm not detail oriented. So when someone notices a detail that I didn't do, I don't need to get defensive, which is like for me how I would have been in the past because I would have seen it as a deficiency. But now that I own my strengths, I don't see it as a deficiency. I know I should be doing the least amount of details as possible. And when I make a mistake in details, like that's okay because I'm bringing these other strengths, right?
Right.
So, and other people, and also, sometimes it can be really irritating when you're like in the group project or in your team at work and someone is always like on the details and you're like, gosh, could they give it a rest? Like that's how I used to feel because I'm more like visionary and creative. And so I'm like, ugh, I don't want to do the calendar of all the meetings. Okay, like boring, right? Why are you bringing that up first? But now I am so grateful for that person. Thank goodness we don't have like another idea person like talking too much like I am. Like I'm so glad we have someone who's like, okay, Jen, nice ideas, but like we only have 20 minutes left and is our next meeting? And so before that would have bothered me, I would have been like offended or irritated. Now I'm like, I love so much that they're the detail person or the schedule person. Yeah, bringing that. What I want for everyone is empowerment,
Right.
right? That's the number one thing is that we have empowerment in our life for companies, for employees, for leaders, everyone. And so like the more what we call like organizational behavior skills, which are just humaning skills,
Hmm.
communication, conflict resolution, decision making, creativity, all strengths, all the things, the more we have of that, the more empowerment we all get. And then the happier and more successful we are.
Right, right. Thank you so much for sharing this. If there is just one challenge you could solve out there for the audience listening to this today, what would it be?
Yeah, it's that people have access to their own clarity. Like they can go, everyone's telling me I need to be a lawyer.
Yeah,
I know. Or everyone's telling me I need to lead my team in this way. I'm gonna do it this way. Or everyone's
right,
telling me I should want this. I don't that, you know, what is what I want. And that we don't shy away from the hard things that's the other thing is I want people to live on the edge of life, like where we're expanding, not in the bad way, in the good way, where we're like, it's a little bit scary, it's a little bit exciting. So we're expanding and we're moving forward because we're either expanding or contracting. There's no middle ground.
right,
So I want more people to live on the edge, and you get to live on that edge when you can access that empowerment through clarity. Like if I can access, I'm scared, but I'm really clear, I can like take that step in my business that's scary or in my
right.
career or in my education or whatever it is or in that meeting. Right?
That's all right. Like, thank you so much for sharing all this. I really appreciate it, and the audience out there
Like,
will really like what you shared with us. Like, that was incredibly insightful. I know listeners will walk away with some actionable frameworks for finding clarity and stepping into courageous decision making. So, thank you for joining us today, and thanks for all the audience out there, and see you in the next episode.